So we don't know what it's called, but we know what it means.
Yes.
That's sexual harassment in its way. Sometimes you see a guy and he looks at you and he winks in a way that suggests, I want you or I want your body. That's sexual harassment.
Okay.
Sometimes you see a man in a place and then he runs his tongue all over his lips or smacks his lips in a way that suggests that it's you he's looking at. That's sexual harassment. Sometimes you hear things like, Iwi hem neri. Now this kind of food I did chop.
Can you imagine?
Or a guy smacks you on your bum in a way that suggests this is what I want. That's sexual harassment. So that's why I needed to make that clarification.
Okay.
But when it comes to assault has to do with the actual touching of a person's body, another person's body, with an intention to create or to cause injury or harm or pain. Right? And in this case of the young lady, that was definitely assault. A weapon was used, and an assault can happen in so many ways. It could either be with a weapon or with your hand or with even verbal assaults. You've heard of verbal assault.
Of course.
Right? Because there are certain
people.
things, there are certain things that you will say to somebody and the person's spirit is gone. You've put fear in the person. And that is why even in the law, you have what is called a threatened breach of the peace. Because there are certain things you could say, things like, you will see me here tomorrow, and by the time I come here, be sure that there will be problem for you. I mean, that has already threatened the peace of that person and that place. And so you want to probably report or petition the person against that threat. So this is assault, and then this is sexual harassment. What Favor experienced on Monday or Tuesday was actually sexual harassment, really.
It's good that we say these things, because it's a norm. If you go to, let me use Onitsha main market as an example. Oh my goodness. The very first day I stepped my feet in that market as a young lady, I was quite young. That was the last. This one will drag me from here. This one will drag me. And the moment you try to protest, it becomes a problem.
And did you notice that the women in the market don't drag?
No.
It's actually the men.
Yes.
And have you also noticed that the men don't drag their fellow men? It's actually the ladies they drag.
Exactly.
So you just want to ask, why? Why? If you say, so why are you not dragging your fellow man?
Okay.
Or why are the women not dragging women or men?
Oh, they don't want to receive a punch. They know what will come after that.
Honestly. Verbal assault and all sorts of things.
That's terrible. Yeah. Okay, so now we've tried to clarify between and make a difference between what is it called, sexual harassment and assault. What of battery? Where does battery fall?
Battery falls under assault. It's also in the family. When you talk about assault, remember, I said assault could take the form of spoken words, verbal, and then the physical actual act is the battery, the battering, where you now apply force with an intention to cause harm or injury. So you have the verbal assault, you have the physical assault, and that is what you now call battery. Battering. Yes, please.
Okay. So yet another question for you. Please. Now, apart from the story we shared this morning, the story of Rachel, who was brutally beaten by a man who claimed that he asked her out and she refused, and somehow he got enraged, went to her shop. I don't know what led to that argument, but what we know is that the end result was that he beat her blue black. Now, we've also seen cases where a lady ends a relationship with a man, right? Maybe in the course of that relationship, he built a house for her. And then I saw that story last week too, another trending story. And then the lady ended that relationship with this young man. He went over to that house and burnt it down. A house that he built in her name, right? He burnt it down. Is that also, where do we classify it? I'm just trying to pick here and there. Or you see a young lady who is not even yet married to a man, but because of one little misunderstanding, you can go to our Facebook page now. You see the video live on Echo FM 100.7, and you see how this young man is brutally striking this young girl. By the time they took pictures, when she had removed the trousers she was wearing, You can see marks,
Right.
a lot of marks on her body. And then he didn't stop there. She was about having breakfast. Yeah, you can see the marks all over her body. Evidence. And then she was having breakfast that morning. He not only beat her up, he threw away the food she was eating.
Hey.
Just wanted to humiliate her. Okay?
sad.
Go to our Facebook page and you'll see that video. So I was making a point. This is one out of many of the cases we have heard. A lady says no to a man and it becomes a problem. Now, this is not even that she said no to sexual advance or something. No. He wanted to date her and she said, not be by force. Now, I don't want you.
Way bigger than her.
Way bigger. Why did he not go for his size?
They watch self, they don't fit do anything.
What do you want them to do? You see the young man who actually wanted to intervene, looking even smaller than the person who is assaulting. You know? And then he beats her blue black. So this is what we are saying. This is typical assault. And as someone will say, oh, maybe he was under the influence of drugs or under the influence of alcohol. So Barrister Ndidi, we want you to really help us. When this happens, what should a lady do?
Wow. Well, I mean, this is so sad to watch. And, watching this video has also exposed a lot of things to me because I'm taking a closer look at it. And clearly, there were events that led to what's happened.
Okay.
This didn't just happen.
Yes.
But however, violence is inexcusable for whatever reason. There are many ways to settle issues. Let me give a hypothetical case. Let me even assume that in this case, this man and this woman were already dating, because you raised the story about a couple that were dating and the man built a house for her and then eventually she broke up with him and then he went to burn the house. I'm going to tie it together so that we understand. So let me assume that Rachel had been in a long-standing relationship with this man and probably they were working towards marriage.
Maybe.
And they were probably engaged to be married, all right? And somewhere along the line, Rachel now calls off the engagement. Now, under the law, and perhaps maybe another time I would come into the studios to discuss this extensively.
Okay.
There is actually something called a breach of promise to marry.
Really?
Yes, please.
Oh. Okay.
And it's actually actionable. A man or a woman can sue her fiance or fiancé for a breach of promise to marry, can actually sue for damages. And there are certain conditions you must prove for it to, be seen as a breach of promise. So I'm trying to assume that that's what happened. However, if there was a breach of promise to marry, the remedy isn't to go physical or to cause another crime or another wrong. The remedy would be to use the law to get damages and to get some reprisal based on what you have suffered, right? And so in the case of Rachel, whatever the case may have been, whatever that may have led the man to act in this manner, does not justify the man taking the law into his own hands.
Okay.
Right? He did take the law into his own hands. And not only did he take the law into his own hands, he actually broke the law. In the process of taking the law into his own hands, he broke the law. Because where your right stops, mine begins. And so you are not supposed to inflict harm on another person. You are not to infringe on another person's right in trying to establish your own right, whatever you think it may be. And so this is a clear infringement on the rights of Rachel as guaranteed by the Constitution. You want to talk about right to human dignity. You want to talk about right to privacy. Because from what I was told, the man stormed her place, threw away her food and all of that. So that's a right, that's an infringement of my right to privacy. Okay. You also want to look at the various laws. We have the criminal code that governs the southern part of the country that also provides for physical violence. All right. But right now in Imo State, in Nigeria, I don't know if we're aware of the law called the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law, which is the VAP law. The VAP law. Currently in Imo State is domesticated and in fact all over the country now, except I think Kano or Kaduna, if I'm not mistaken. It's domesticated all over. Now the VAP law gave a wider scope to the legal application of some of these things that we have seen. If you look at the criminal code, you would find a narrowed approach in prosecuting cases of things like rape, child defilement. But what VAP law did was to widened the scope for the prosecution of the same. And it talked about things like sexual harassment. It went as far as even saying things like rape doesn't have to be actual penetration.
Yes.
And it proved that there are certain things you could do. If you poke the pencil in my mouth, it's actually rape. Because it talks about penetrating any open space in my body. Okay. So the VAP law provides for physical abuse like this, and it gives the consequences. It is a crime. Assault is not a civil matter. You have the criminal matters which are dealt with by the police. It starts first. It starts with the police being, enforcing an arrest and investigating and charging to court. And then if you're found guilty, you go to prison. And then you have the civil aspect of, certain offenses. For assaults, it is a crime. And what this man did to this lady is clearly a crime. And he's liable to either a fine or a term of imprisonment.
Like how long? What term? How long?
Now, unfortunately, the VAP law actually provides for 3 years imprisonment or a fine of 500,000. And for me, I'm one of the advocates that we must begin to review our laws for punishments and offenses to be met headlong, aura for aura. Personally, for me, things like child defilement, I propose that there be a surgical, cutting off of the organ in question.
Take it easy. Barrister,
I'm trying not to be. I'm trying not to be.
Radio,
yes,
okay?
Yes.
Easy. Take it easy.
Yes. No, but these are some of the things we have to do, because when you look at the VAP law, it only talks about, let's say, 14 years imprisonment. We're talking about the life of a child that has been destroyed. 3 years ago, a 3-year-old girl was violently defiled and had her cervix bone broken.
Oh my
She died
goodness.
2 days after.
Oh, God.
No term of imprisonment will ever make up for that.
Not at all.
So maybe, and the correctional facilities are quite congested. We don't need more people there. We just take out the organ and the weapon
all right.
whatever.
This is where,
And then,
if I leave Barry standing here, she's going to spill. Okay? Favor, do you agree? 3 years imprisonment or a fine of 500,000, is that enough?
Not enough.
Clara,
At
is
all.
that enough?
I sarura ala gba afọ. Ya woman.
What does that mean?
Madam Mary, have market.
we'll start normalizing things when we let them be.
Okay.
Afọ atọ enwe di ihe ọwụ. Na ihe aka ọjọọ ya bụ arụ.
For instance, in the case of Rachel, she would live with those scars for the rest of her life.
You see, the thing is this, Clara. Physical abuse of women has become normalized. It has come to a point where if you see when a lady complains, oh, my boyfriend slapped me, notice the question that will follow. What did you do?
What did you do? Yes.
It's because of what you wore. That's why they raped you. There can never be a justification for a crime.
Yeah.
As much as we advocate for decent dressing, that a lady was not decently dressed does not mean that you should lose your own sense of responsibility and take advantage of that.
Okay.
So these things have been enabled. Patriarchy has also been enabled even by us, the women. Mothers raise girls to cook and clean so that you will respect your husband, but nobody raises the boys to respect their wives. So you hear things like, go and wash the plate. She's my sister, she has to wash the plate. And then you hear even little boys say, I will slap you now if you don't do that.
Very true.
So you see, it begins to become a gender thing, a gender role thing. The men are supposed, the boys are grow up to know that the women have to be in the kitchen. Otherwise, physical violence should be exerted. And in the penal code, actually, under the Sharia law, there is a permission for a man to actually beat his wife.
In the Sharia law?
Yes, please.
Really?
Yes. There is permission for you, even though it says with just a reasonable force, not, but beating
but
is
they've
beating.
enabled it already.
So that's the thing.
Is it the same in the Nigerian constitution?
No,
Do we
of
have
course
anything
not.
like that?
It's not. It's not. The constitution is very clear about the right to life, the right to dignity, the right to be protected from harm. And the constitution is the ground norm, right? And so it is not envisaged that a woman or a man or whoever should be beaten or have his right infringed upon simply because you're trying to do something. Even when you're trying to arrest somebody you suspect to have committed a crime. Remember, at that point where you're trying to arrest him, he is still a suspect. And the law on the presumption of innocence is that an accused person is presumed innocent until proven guilty by a court of law, not by police media, not by social media. A court of law has to pronounce. So in the process of arresting a suspect, you find them being beaten and being handcuffed in a manner that circulation is cut off from their wrists. These are all an infringement, because even an accused person has rights. The only time when the Constitution and your rights are kind of taken away from you is when you are convicted. Then things like right to freedom, because you already put in a correctional facility, so you cannot begin to talk about right to freedom, is going to be restricted. There will be restrictions on your rights, but until then, even an accused person has rights. So in this case, really, I also think that the law has to take full force. But unfortunately, even when victims of assault go to the police to report, you hear things like, now this your mouth, now in cost they might make you do.
Don't worry, we'll talk about challenges, okay? But I think it's time for us to open up the phone lines to hear what people have got to say. If this is your first time of tuning in your life, and we are talking about the physical assault on women, okay? Using the story of a young girl named Rachel. It's actually on social media. You go right now, you see the video. This happened in Akwa Ibom, I think. Yes, somewhere in Akwa Ibom. A beautiful, beautiful young lady was assaulted by a man because she refused to date him. He used machete. I don't know if that's cutlass. I don't know if that's cane. But make sure he disfigured her body. He was just flogging her anyhow. And people couldn't even intervene because he was much, much bigger in size than all of them.
Wow.
Okay, so Barrister Ndidi is here trying to help us break it down. Let's know where this problem actually started from. She has talked about patriarchy. She has talked about raising the boy child in the way that it should be. But these days, I don't know, do we ever learn? Are we learning at all? No, because these things keep reoccurring. What can we do? Let's open up the phone lines, please.
Igbo man again biko were akara ekwentị abụ 0911 20022 jiri kpọbata 0911 20022 ma bụkwa 0707 454 1014 0707 454 1014.
We are live on Facebook at Echo FM 100.7. The video is there right now for you to go and watch, and you see plasters, bandages, marks all over her body. What a sad one. All right, let's take this call. We lost that one, yeah.
Ibolachi.
Hello.
Okanoya.
Hello, good morning.
Ụtụtụ ọma.
What's going on? The phone lines are acting
Hello.
up.
Hello, good morning, all the ladies in the house.
Good morning.
Ibolachi.
I'm Bro Cedra calling from Ikenego.
Ndewo.
You're welcome.
Well, my question has to go to the barrister. I think she's listening.
Yes, please, sir.
Okay, though from what he has just said, he has in a way answered what I want to ask, but I still have to ask this question.
Okay.
There is a saying in Igbo land. Na onye patranka hostere kangwere dari egwu, which means if one fetches firewood with the ants, it calls for lizard masquerade. What do I mean? Like these days and this generation we are in, how do we put it when all these ladies that used to be naked on the way? Because I know in electricity, negative and positive jam together. They come together and give light. When the ladies who know that the society are very, very bad, they always put on nakedness and going on their way. If any sexual harassment is done on them, the cost in the right sense. Let's not talk about the law now, but on the natural sense. Thank you.
Okay, I'm still struggling to get your question, but Barrister Ndidi, maybe you can note down what he said, and when we start to react, you try to respond.
Hello.
Hello.
Ibolachi.
Hello.
Hello, Ganiru.
What's going on? What is going on? Hello.
Hello. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Welcome. What's your name?
Yeah, my name is Ahmad. I call from Uche Street in Owerri.
Go ahead, please.
Ndewo.
Yes, what we are discussing this morning is very important because it happens everywhere, in workplaces, schools, and in some cultural settings, like the one that happened recently in Delta State. So, but my question to the barrister there is that, what's the difference between sexual harassment and making advances to a woman with intention of marrying her or having a genuine relationship with her? That's one.
Okay.
If a woman dresses, another one is that if a woman dresses indecently and seductively, is it not sexual harassment against women? That's the second question. Thank you. Amma from Uches.
Okay, thank you so much. It shows that we have a lot to cover. We might not be able to cover all of these things today, but it's good these questions are coming up. Hello?
Hello.
Okay, and we lost that call. This particular number has been having issues for days, so please redirect your calls to 0707 454 1014.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Ibolachi.
Hello?
Hello, Ganiru.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Good morning. What's your name? Okay, sorry about that. Okay, Barrister Ndidi, I think we'll go back to you. The first person asked about women who dress indecently. I think we'll link it to the second question by Amma. Dressing indecently and seductively, is that not also sexual harassment on the part of the man? Or assault? I don't know what word to use.
The truth of the matter is, even the law does talk about moderation, right? There are pointers towards the fact that whatever you do, there must be moderation. You must be able to also respect my rights. You must be able to respect my how do you want to put it, my well-being.
Okay.
For example, if you look at the legal profession, there is a way we dress. In a manner that when we come in, you would know that we are lawyers,
Yes.
right? And so if you claim that you are a lawyer and then you walk into court wearing a pink top and blue jeans, you're clearly offending our sensibilities and the ethics of the profession.
Very true.
Right? And we have a right to walk you out of that place in the manner that, or with the spirit that you're not doing the right thing. However, where your right stops, mine begins. If you believe that indecent dressing is an offense to your sensibilities, it goes against the morals that you believe in. It goes against the ethics of probably your workplace, your value system. There are things you could do. You could go back to the law to say, is this an offense that is actionable? And if it is actionable, what are the steps that we can take? It is not for you to drag that lady. I was watching a video yesterday where members of the military were harassing a young lady, I think in Anambra. The video went viral because she was indecently dressed. Number one, the army does not have jurisdiction to deal with indecent dressing.
Really?
The army's jurisdiction is as it relates to protection and defense of Nigeria's territorial borders. It has got nothing to do. So, firstly, they were acting ultra-virus.
Okay.
Secondly, there is a way you would also treat the dignity, even if the person does not feel she has dignity. The Constitution still says right to dignity of human person. It didn't give a condition that you must respect that right to dignity if the person is dressed properly.
Yes.
It talked about right to dignity. So you owe that person that responsibility. In other words, if a person is indecently dressed, nothing stops us from saying, you know what, we need to talk about these things and probably codify a law that will speak against this thing holistically, as it were. Or we continue with the advocacy. Please stop indecent dressing. Today you walk into public institutions and you see things like indecent dressing not allowed. In other words, if you now dress indecently and walk into that place, you have waived your right to challenge anybody challenging your indecent dressing, because it's taken that you saw the notice and then you still went in there.
Yes,
Do you understand?
yes.
So, but you are in trying to enforce a policy or a law, you do not break the law in trying to enforce it. So there is no justification for rape on the basis of indecency. And this belies my earlier submission. You know, the first question you saw, he said, Onye pankwa ho. In other words, you are justifying it because so you and I asked the question, when the guys sag and when we see their boxers as they sag, do we jump on top of them?
They're sexually harassing the women as well.
Women.
Yes.
Do we jump on top of them? So let's try.
You're talking about sagging. What of wearing a shirt and opening up your chest with your with your buttons down? Your chest is broad, open, and if you're the type that has a broad chest, what are you doing?
You're offending our sensibilities.
You're seducing the women as well.
But we're not going to now run amok because you're seducing me. I was having a conversation with my husband today, and when we're talking about this husband and wife submission and love thing and all of that, and I told him, I said, babe, the truth is, when God made you, he made you a king already. A king doesn't come out to announce, I'm king. Respect me. His Royal Majesty. A king is a king by his right. It takes you to live out your role and your authority as a king for people to now respond accordingly. When a king actually acts like a king, you would be stupid not to fall in line and pay homage to that king. He doesn't have to laud it. And that is the same thing here. You're a man, if your sensibilities are offended, if you are mature emotionally, you know what to do. It's either you walk out of that place, or you could even speak to the lady as a mature person to say, listen, young lady, this is not in your best interest to be dressed this way because you are also offending my sensibilities. I have a right to look at what is, morally upright, and I have a right to some decency around me. But it's not for you to go and slap her bum and say, well, you called for it, if this is what you're trying to do. So that's for, that first and second question. Nothing justifies committing a crime or committing an offense.
Okay. Now, and then he asked sexual harassment, the difference between sexual harassment and advances made by a man with the intention of marrying a woman.
It is the motive and in the context. When you say advances, when my husband was quote unquote toasting me, he was making an advance, isn't it? But he wasn't sexually harassing me. He was making his intentions known. I like you. I want to marry you. This is what I want to do. So there's a difference between propositioning something that does not offend my sensibilities. There's also a difference between calling me and saying, I saw your chest area. And each time I look at it, it arouses me. I just want to do crazy things.
Yes.
Or you begin to send me explicit videos to suggest or buttress how you're feeling to me at that point without my permission.
Okay.
Then that's sexual harassment.
All right.
Right? Remember, I told you that sexual harassment has to do with making suggestions in a manner that suggests you want to use my body without my consent, or you want to address my body in a way that I find offensive sexually, has a sexual undertone. And as long as it's not with my consent, then it is sexual harassment. But advances, it depends in the context. If you now advance to say, favor, I'm coming for you this night, and I'm going to tear you or rip you apart.
Yeah.
Well, that's sexual harassment.
That is sexual harassment.
All right, so that's the difference.
Okay, so don't get it twisted. We are talking about physical assault on women, on the female gender. However, you know that these things are intertwined. That's why it seems more like we are also touching here on sexual harassment. We'll come talk about rape. We'll come talk about physical. They are all together, okay? So we can talk about one and leave the other. Keep your calls coming in 0911 20022 0707 454 1014.
Hello.
Let me use my mother's tongue. Yeah?
So what the
Yeah.
Aha gị na-ebi si na-akpọ.
Aha wụ Marihe Oshinachi.
Gaa n'iru.
Marihe Oshinachi. Yeah. Onye nwa nwaanyị eritere nga m. Shut down, but also her pan. Many are not cook and easy like this. They went to many are not cook and easy because they take people come one. Only I'm a look at here to Nala. Get up here, I'm so water.
What is he saying? I'm lost. Okay.
gbuo ya na nkenke. Mba, e nwere ihe ndị anyị na-aga akpọ na redio nụ na. E nwere okwu ndị na-agaghị akwa ekwu na redio nụ na. Mara otu ị ga-esi akpọ ha.
Okay, agwa ha ọkpara ka m were otu agwa ha ọkpara ya olufo agwa ha ọkpara akpụ ya gịnị onye ya gbakwa ma fụrụ nwaanyị akpara akpụ ya gịnị
ọmụma luho ihe ahụ bịa hulata ọmụma luho ya den hulata ka ịhụ ya ọmụma ọ gị ka o lege luho ya.
Your line
is breaking.
Your line is really bad, but I believe you heard what he asked, and I'm even lost at this point.
Now he was asking. He said there was a young lady, if I got it, who he found out wasn't wearing underwear.
Okay.
And how he was able to find out was that she threw something on the floor, and in the process of bending, and then she bent. Now the question, remember I was talking about context. I have seen cases where young ladies, intentionally wanted to seduce somebody, and to gain your attention, they would do something just to, gain your attention. And that's why I asked the question, Omuma Luhoye. And I have also seen young ladies who were really decently dressed, and something had, fell off their hands and they bent down without an intention to, right? So if we're able to get it in the context, that's why I was asking, Omoma, if you find out that that lady has been making passes at you and all that, it's definitely sexual harassment. Definitely.
Okay, more calls.
Hello. Hello. Ganiru.
Hello?
Hello, Ganiru.
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes.
We can hear you. Good morning. Good morning.
Hello?
All right, sorry about that. Try to redirect your calls.
Hello. Okanoya?
No, this is a caller. My name is Cynthia from Oji.
Okay. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Okay, so we're talking about this harassment people, right? So I have this
Physical assaults.
Physical assault, sexual assault.
All of them are together. Go ahead.
Okay. So if you check this story well, and if you confront the guy, he can tell you for a fact that maybe the girl contributed 30% to what happened, but he owns 70%.
Hello?
I have a guy that he's just obsessed with me for no reason. To the extent that during his wife's wedding, because I'm a makeup artist, he booked me for the makeup job. I came for the makeup job. And I was in the room with other Ashobi girls that came and all that. This guy was still coming into that room to sexually, to tell me sexualizing things under his roof.
On his wedding day?
On his wedding day. And this guy is somebody that's supposed to be my brother, because where I work, that was how he got my number. He told me, you're from so-so place, I'm from so-so place. Brother thing, I shared my number. And he said he wanted me to teach the wife makeup. I said, no problem. From there, he started diverting to another different thing. Always harassing me, sending me his nudes and all that. And now, I tried getting close to the wife so that he can stop. Do you get? But it's like I even gave him the leverage to even get close to me.
Wow.
So during the wedding, and I came for the stuff, I know he's kind of person. I started to stay with the girls. Even the room they gave me separate. I said, no, I don't want to stay there. No. This guy will come every minute, because it was bridal shower. Every minute he will come. He will give me something. He will bring drink. He will bring food. He kept coming into the room. I was so uncomfortable. I had to wear trouser and bra and everything to sleep that night.
Oh my God.
The next morning after my job, he was not telling me how he was so happy that I came to his house, that I finally gave him an opportunity to see me, blah, blah, blah. I said, I came for a job, but it's not because of you. He said he was so happy that I was sleeping, the way he was looking at me while I was sleeping, that he was so happy. I'm like, so what if that guy has done something, rape or something? They will say, what was she wearing?
Yes. Or what took you to the house?
To the house. Nobody will really believe my story, but I came for the job.
Cynthia, thank you
like
so
I'm
much.
stuck in this situation. So, but the other caller saying me, whatever things. If you see somebody nude, you mind your business.
Okay.
You understand? So I know that some girls dress indecently, boobs and ass and all that, but I think it's mindset.
Okay.
You see a girl with her breast all out. Okay, then that means you should rape a mad woman now that is naked on the street.
Okay.
So it should be a self-decision that this shouldn't bother me. So the guy that went to assault the girl, macheted and did whatever, he has not really said what the problem is. So 80% of sexual assault on women or physical is not about indecent dressing.
His mindset.
They should go and do that with the celebrity.
Okay,
Thank
there
you.
was
Thank you
something-
so much, Cynthia. Go ahead, Barrister.
There was something Cynthia said when she first started. She said about 30%. I wanted to understand, the 30% contributory factor until she now shared her story. Firstly, this is what a lot of women go through.
Okay.
However, I want to give a balanced view to this thing. When I was in the university, you had the issues or the the places where a guy likes you and spends money on you. You don't like the guy, but they say, well, I don't like him, but I go chop him money. Well, I have always believed if you don't like him, don't like his money.
Simple.
Because you would be giving off some vibe that would be encouraging him. Green light, right? That's what they call it, right? And so I think that while what the man who was what Cynthia was saying, the man was totally irresponsible because we're talking about your wife and all of that. I also think that Cynthia could have saved herself that kind of stress by staying away.
Okay.
You are a makeup artist, and then this guy who's been, according to you, harassing you, now says, I want you to make my wife up. I won't come anywhere near you. And I definitely won't come anywhere near your wife. Right? Because now look what he said after the whole thing. He said, thank you for coming to my house. When he goes out to say tomorrow, he won't tell them that you were the makeup artist that made this. And by the way, he's even to your face, he's married. There is a thin line between mixing business and pleasure, right? So yes, while I agree that you're doing your work, but don't enable somebody who has decided to become totally irresponsible. Don't enable his irresponsibility. You could actually give him the option of taking another person. There are many ways to register your protest, either by silence or inaction, right? And if he insists, you say, well, I'm not the only makeup artist. I'm sure there are many makeup artists. Please, that is not to justify his responsibility, but I'm just saying, sometimes too, we need to also mount our guard. And because women are blessed with intuition, you cannot tell me that you don't know when that this man likes you. I mean, if we get into a room full of 10 men, Clara, you will agree with me, you will almost definitely know the man who's going to ask you out next.
Very true.
Right? And God gave us this gift so that we can be guarded in our utterances and in our actions, kind of. And so you already know this one is that the man has already started harassing you. You would do yourself a favor as much as possible to widen the space between you people. As much as possible, don't be in the same space.
Don't even give him
What if
that
he
space.
set you up that day?
What if he had raped her that day?
What if he set you up? What if he mounted cameras and did something and tomorrow he will claim you came to his house? And think crazy things are happening. So while I am not justifying his irresponsibility, I would say to Cynthia, I'm sorry this happened, but I think you should keep your distance. And even though you're doing your work, don't put yourself in a place where in a position where you will now be on the defense.
Okay, so sorry, we'll have to end it there, Barrister. But before we go, challenges. Involving implementation of the laws against physical assault on females. Number 1, culture of silence. Some women are still in the habit of keeping mute when they have been physically assaulted. Is that a challenge?
Yes, it's a
And
big
then
challenge.
what other challenges do you think that we have to touch just here and there? Few minutes. We have less than 3 minutes to
The
go.
only
please.
reason why the culture of silence is continuing is because of the absence of the rule of law. If impunity is punished, more people will come out.
Okay.
If impunity is punished, more cases will be reported. If action is taken, more people will become more confident in reporting because they know that the law will catch up with you. And so the problem is, how many rape cases have you heard today have gotten a conviction? How many sexual harassment cases?
They go off
We
on
had a
bail.
senator who talked about sexual harassment. What happened? she was suspended.
Yes.
And nobody's talking about the aspect that she raised. All right? So that's one of it. The second one is actually lack of implementation of the laws. When you look at the VAP law, it talks about the establishment of an agency. The agency is in charge of ensuring the full implementation of the law. And one of the things that the agency should do is to house itself in one place where you have the agency and then you have a police officer, so that if there is a complainant or a victim of a crime, there's a police there standby, there is a doctor standby, there is a lawyer standby. So it's like a one-stop shop. Now, currently in Imo State, we don't have that agency established, and we have been, advocating for the establishment of that agency, because once it's established, we'll have more case reportage, we'll have more confidentiality. And finally, witness protection.
Very
when people
important.
report, are they protected?
Or stigmatized
How many
against.
safe homes do we have? So when a victim of rape or of domestic violence comes, we tell her it is well, and then we send her back to her abuser. There aren't safe spaces. There aren't safe homes. There is no witness protection, even for the people who will witness and say, I was there when I saw this happen. You release them back into the streets. Of course, the boys will fall on her and say, now you talk that matter, Abi, you go here. So these are some of those things. Patriarchy, social-cultural biases, and it is all because there's no rule of law. So when a woman has seen her daughter raped, she'll say, Mishonogi, so that Echige Lurudi. And all of that. Social cultural bias, lack of implementations of the law, lack of witness protection, no safe spaces.
No safe spaces. So from what you said, and we're going to end it here, a lot of loopholes in the government, in the law, in the people, in you and I. We have a long way to go. Clara, parting words before we go.
Igbo ndị ọma ụzụchala ma gbacha n'ebe aka anyị ga-esi ya kpọm iji wee wetara gị akụkọ ụwa nke ehihie a. Mana biko ọ ga-amasị m ka ọ bụrụ na ndị na-achị anyị gọọmenti ga-ewepụta iwu kpụ ọkụ n'ọnụ iji nwee ike gbaa ụkwụ gbagide ya bụ oke mmekpa ahụ a na-emekpa ụmụ nwaanyị. Iwepụta iwu kpụ ọkụ n'ọnụ a ga-eji megide nke a, dịka onye ọkaikpe anyị na-anọ ebe a si wee kwuo, ọ sị na ọ bụrụ na enwe iwu kpụ ọkụ n'ọnụ, na ị ga-ahụ na ọtụtụ ndị ga-esi na ebe nzuzo ha pụta bịa nwee mmụọ iji gbaa ma si lekwe ihe dị otu a mere ma ọ bụ gịnị o mee ha. Ama m ịghọtara.
Very true.
Mana n'ihi gịnị enwe ihe dị otu ahụ iji chekwa ndị a, enwe ndị pụtagana. Biko gọọmenti leba anya na nka
Ndewo. Favor, parting words.
Nothing will ever justify physical violence or sexual assault or sexual abuse. So may everybody, they're very responsible, and if you be victim of any of these things, I may try speak up to the right authorities.
Okay, try to speak up. Barrister Ndidi Anike Val Okoma, Esquire, former chairperson FIDA Imo State and managing partner and head of practice at Ndidi Anike and Co. Thank you so much, for honoring our invitation this morning. And we wish you the best going forward. More power to your elbow.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Omeniwo. They call me the Slim Diva. You're most adorable.
My name is Favor, and a good afternoon.
Up next is the news at 12. Thank you for listening. Thank you as well, DJ Moth King.
Echo FM.
This week to help those in need.
If you know that it's God Almighty that created you and created we Nigerians like you need to do good things for us because the masses are suffering. How you can suspend me here? Are we the slaves?
And I'm going to win this election.
That is the truth.
Stay informed with Echo FM 100.7. Join us for exclusive interviews with experts, breaking updates on local and global events, and in-depth coverage of issues impacting our community. Tune in every weekday at 6:30 a.m., 12 noon, 2 p.m., and 6 p.m. for our major news bulletin in English, Igbo, and Pidgin language. For more inquiries, you can reach us through our email, echofm@thekingmail.com. You can follow us on our social media handles at EchoFM. Echo FM 100.7 Owerri. We are the Fresh News People.
Exactly a minute past noon. Good afternoon and welcome to the Global News at Noon right here on Echo FM 100.7 Owerri, the station with fair and balanced reporting. My name is Mary Omeni Wode, bringing you the latest news and breaking stories around the world. Here are the headlines. Tinubu visits Jos victims, promises attack won't happen again. INEC response to ADC labels calls for chairman's removal as a distraction. World Bank injects $500 million into Nigeria farms. On the foreign scene, Iran warns UN Security Council against provocative action on Hamas. Burkina Junta chief says country must forget democracy. And still on sports news, India, Jamaica to battle Eagles for 2026 Unity Cup. Details shortly. And we start off with the very first story that says President Bola Tinubu has directed security agencies to track down and apprehend those responsible for the killings in Angwan, Rukuba, Jos North local government area of Plateau State, even as he consoled families of the victims. The deadly incident occurred on Palm Sunday when suspected bandits attacked a popular bar in the community, leaving over 28 people dead and many others injured, according to the Plateau State Police Command. Speaking during a town hall meeting with key stakeholders in Jos, the state capital, Tinubu sympathized with the families of the victims, emphasizing that no amount of money could ever replace their loss. President Tinubu assured that the federal government will provide support to affected families while ensuring justice is served. The president directed security agencies to track down and apprehend those responsible for the killings, commending the swift response of the police and military, saying they must unearth and apprehend the killers. In another development, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has faulted the demand by the African Democratic Congress, ADC, for the sacking of its chairman, Professor Joash Amupitan, describing it as not only a distraction, but a direct assault on the independence of the commission. The commission stated that the call for the removal of its chairman on account of its decision to obey the recent Court of Appeal judgment was an unfair demand. The chief press secretary to the INEC chairman, Adedayo Oketola, in a statement noted that the proceeding to monitor the Congress and convention of the David Mark-led ADC would amount to disobedience of a court order, since the reliefs claimed in the originating summons include an order restraining INEC from monitoring any meeting, congress, or convention of the party. INEC further explained that its decisions are anchored on compliance with substituting court orders and statutory requirements under the Electoral Act of 2026. The commission reiterated its neutrality, stating that it will not be drawn into internal party disputes and remains committed to conducting free, fair, credible, and inclusive elections. And still on security matters, the Sokoto State Police Command has confirmed a late-night bandit attack on Chacho community in Wono local government area of the state, during which several residents were abducted and others injured. The incident threw the quiet community into panic as heavily armed assailants stormed the village, reportedly gaining access through a route linked to the notorious Sabombiri forest. Confirming the development, the police public relations officer in the state, Ahmad Rufai, stated that the command has swiftly mobilized operatives to the area and commenced efforts to track down perpetrators and rescue the victims. Rufai assured that the command remains committed to restoring calm in the area and urged residents to remain vigilant and cooperate with security agencies. The attack has heightened concerns among residents over the rising spate of banditry in the area, with calls for sustained security presence to prevent further incursions. And news reaching us says a massive gridlock has left several vehicles stranded for hours on the Abuja-Lokoja highway ahead of Easter holidays. The traffic buildup, described as a reoccurring phenomenon during festive periods, has left motorists stranded for hours on the busy route linking the Federal Capital Territory (FCT) to parts of the north, central, and southern regions. A similar situation was recorded in December when several motorists reportedly spent up to 4 days on the road. Some of the stranded motorists blamed the gridlock on impatience among drivers and the poor condition of sections of the road which have been under construction for almost 20 years. Meanwhile, the chairman of the People's Democratic Party in Kogi State, Mohammed Gambo, blamed both the federal and state governments for the condition of the road. He described the highway as a major gateway linking the Federal Capital Territory to the north, central, and parts of the south, serving food supplies, fuel distribution, and manufactured goods, warning that the situation would worsen as Easter travels intensifies. If you just tune in, you're listening to the Global News at Noon right here on Echo FM 100.7 Owerri. It's exactly 8 minutes past noon. Here's a recap of the headlines. Tinubu visits just victims, promises attack won't happen again. INEC responds to ADC, labels calls for chairman's removal a distraction. World Bank injects $500 million into Nigeria farms. Iran warns UN Security Council against provocative action on Hamas. And Burkina Junta chief says country must forget democracy. And on sports news, India and Jamaica to battle Eagles for 2026 Unity Cup. Details after this break. Please stay tuned.
This is a public service announcement. In an effort to enhance road safety and minimize the risks of crash-related fatalities, Federal Road Safety Corps Imo Sector Command is urging citizens to promptly report any road crashes to the Corps Emergency Hotline. In the event of a road crash, citizens are advised to call the Corps Emergency Toll-Free Hotline at 122 to report the incident, or any of the Imo Sector Hotline 0913 960 0904. Provide as much information as possible, including the location of the crash and the number of people involved. Stay on the line to receive guidance from the Corps Response Team. The Sector Commander urges all citizens to take an active role in promoting road safety by promptly reporting any road crashes. Together, we can work towards reducing the rate of road crash fatalities and creating safer roads for everyone. This message is brought to you by Echo FM 100.7 in partnership with the Federal Road Safety Corps Imo Sector Command as part of our corporate social responsibility. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you just joined us, you're listening to the Global News at Noon right here on Echo FM 100.7 Owerri. Over now to the rest of the news. In business news, the World Bank has approved a $500 million International Development Association credit to boost Nigeria's agricultural sector under a new program targeting smallholder farmers, value chains, and food security. The funding will support the Nigerian Sustainable Agricultural Value Chains for Growth project, also known as AGROW, which aims to improve productivity, strengthen market linkages, and create jobs across the country. According to the statement, the AGROW project will support agribusinesses that source produce from smallholder farmers through a results-based matching grants facility. The initiative will focus on aggregation, post-harvest handling, agro-processing, and improved market access, with priority placed on key crops including rice, maize, cassava, and soybean. The statement added that the program will strengthen agricultural research and extension services, expand access to improved and climate-resilient seeds, and establish a national digital farm and farmer registry. It also noted that farmers would also benefit from digital advisory services, including localized weather and climate information, to improve productivity and resilience. Over now to the foreign scene, where Iran has warned the United Nations Security Council against any provocative action ahead of a scheduled vote on a draft resolution on the Strait of Hormuz that ended up being postponed. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi was speaking ahead of a scheduled Security Council vote on a draft resolution mandating a force to protect shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. It was later announced that the vote was postponed with no new date scheduled. The Strait of Hormuz, a shipping lane vital to global energy flows, has been all but shut since the United States and Israel launched strikes against Iran on February 28. The 15-member body was set to vote on a draft resolution brought by Bahrain on authorizing the use of defensive force to protect shipping in Hormuz from Iranian attacks, according to the official program. And still on the foreign scene, Captain Ibrahim Traore has stated that the people of Burkina Faso must forget about democracy. He took over in a September 2022 coup after toppling another junta and has restrained opposing voices since then. The military government dissolved the country's electoral commission last year, and then in February, the junta-led parliament dissolved all political parties whose activities had been suspended since 2022. The country's stated transition to democratic rule, initiated after the first coup in January 2022, was scheduled to end in July 2024. But the junta that year decided to extend the transition period by 5 years, allowing Traore to remain at the helm of the country, plagued by jihadist violence that has claimed thousands of lives for nearly 10 years. Meanwhile, the United Nations has urged Burkina Faso to reverse the decision to ban political parties and stop the repression of civic space. Since coming to power, the junta, which is hostile to Western countries and particularly France, has banned or suspended numerous international media outlets and expelled some of their journalists. And lastly, in the world of sports, this afternoon, Nigeria will defend their Unity Cup title against India, Jamaica, and Zimbabwe when the 2026 edition of the tournament takes place in London from May 26 to 30. The Nigeria Football Federation confirmed that the Super Eagles will return as defending champions for the four-nation competition, having lifted the previous edition after defeating Jamaica 5-4 on penalties following a 2-2 draw at the Brentford Community Stadium. The Unity Cup, now in its fourth edition, will again bring together nations with strong diaspora communities in the United Kingdom, with Nigeria and Jamaica expected to be among the leading contenders based on their rankings and pedigree. Nigeria is currently among the highest-ranked teams in the competition alongside Jamaica, while Zimbabwe and India complete the lineup. The Asian side have not toured England in over 2 decades, with their last notable visit coming in 2002 when Biochang Boatia captained the team in matches that included a fixture against Jamaica. And that's all for the global news this afternoon. This was edited by Benjamin Joseph. For more information and inquiries, please visit our social media platforms on Facebook at Echo FM, X at Echo FM_Owerri, Instagram at Echo FM 100.7, and YouTube at Echo FM 100.7. You can listen to us anywhere in the world by visiting www.echofm.net. That is www.echofm.net. My name is Mary Omeniwode. Thank you for listening. Do have yourselves a lovely weekend and happy Easter in advance.
FM.
Echo FM 100.7, the fresh news people.
Too many lies, too many people with no knives.